Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Omega Revolution. My name is Debbie, and I'm here tonight with
Ray. I'm Ray. I'm super excited to be here.
So tonight we are coming to you with a little bit of a different agenda than what we had originally planned. And as the Omega Revolution, we're learning that we can pivot and we can create anything out of nothing. And that's what we're doing here tonight. So we've actually invited a couple of special guests here tonight that we're going to have share some valuable information about themselves. And just before we get into that, I just wanted to give a little bit of housekeeping here. The information provided by the Omega Revolution is for education purposes only. It's not intended to diagnose, prescribe, treat or cure any disease, and it's your responsibility as a consumer of this content to learn about health issues that may be affecting you personally through further reading or consulting with a professional medical help when needed. The Omega Revolution aims to provide all of its users with an abundance of knowledge that will help them live better lives in both mind and body. Building a healthy lifestyle takes dedication combined with education from trusted sources such as our team here at the Omega Revolution. Ray, I'll let you take over here for a minute and introduce our first panelist.
Okay, so we're going to be talking today to Madison Kunz, and Madison is a entrepreneur, businesswoman, and I want to say a new mom, but she's really not that new of a mom anymore because her adorable little guy is like, he's not that new. Is he 9 months yet, Maddie?
He's 10 months now.
10. Oh my gosh. So he's 10 months. So that's so crazy. And I'm really excited to hear a little bit about your story about how the balance oil has impacted your life and how it's impacted your health and Leo's health as well. And then after, we're going to be introducing Dr. Sharon Selmen, but I'll let Deb maybe do that piece in a bit.
You want me to just get
Tell
going?
us how let's start with Madison. Tell us a little bit about yourself to start with. So you are a mom?
Yes, so I'm a mom. I live in Prince George. I grew up in Kelowna. This is in British Columbia, for those of you who don't know, and I am 23.
Okay. And roughly, approximately, when did you start on the balance oil?
Just about 4 months ago.
Okay. And so you did your first finger prick test, and what were your results? What did they come back at?
Got a 16.2 to 1.
Okay. And were you experiencing any pain, chronic pain, or any illnesses or anything in your body at that time that you thought were significant?
No, I wasn't really experiencing chronic pains. I was dealing with a lot of like postpartum stuff, but like chronic pain wise, I wasn't really experiencing that.
Okay. And so as you started to take the oil, you started to notice some differences. Would you like to share some of these differences with us that, because I know you've experienced quite a few positives out of this. And so I would like to hear what some of those are.
For sure. So I was just about 6 months postpartum when I started taking this oil. And I know lots of people always talk about postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety being a thing, but I didn't realize it was going to be that big of a thing. And I noticed that a month after taking the oil, I felt so good. My hormones felt like they balanced out. My mood was so much better. I just overall felt so happy. So that was like, that was the biggest thing for me. Like just having my mental health be that great was incredible. I also noticed that I was sleeping a lot better, and I was waking up and I was feeling more rested, and I had a lot more energy during the day.
Wow, a new baby, that's pretty awesome.
Which is much needed, right? So that was really awesome. I also noticed, and I have no idea if this is because of the balance oil or not, but we ended up like, I had an emergency C-section, and that scar was itchy and it would hurt, and I don't notice that anymore. And I don't know if that's just my body healing from postpartum or if it's the balance oil, but that was amazing because when that thing gets itchy, like for moms out there who have had C-sections, it's a pain in the butt. So that was really awesome.
Wow.
I can share a little bit about what I've noticed with Leo too.
So
he
Leo is 10 months old, correct?
Yeah. And I waited a little bit before I started giving it to him just because, I don't know, nervous mom giving your baby new foods and, so he was a little over 6 months. He's probably about 6.5 months when he started taking it. And from when he was about a couple weeks old, like up to the 6.5 months, he had such bad eczema on his cheeks and on his hands to the point of like, it was dry and cracked and like, it just looked so bad. And the doctor just kept telling me to like put things on it. And then he was suggesting like steroid creams. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. So once he started taking the oil, I noticed about a month later that it was completely gone.
Wow.
Like, that's incredible because I tried it so much, like so many different natural creams and different things putting on, like, oh my goodness, the balance oil.
That's awesome.
Now, didn't you have some skin concerns as well that have cleared up since you've started the balance oil as well?
Yes, I have noticed though that it cleared up once I started putting the skin serum on it actually.
Okay.
So when I'm consistent with putting the skin serum on my skin, I get a funny rash. The doctors don't know what it is. It goes away.
Because you've shared some photos of that with your arms, right?
Yeah.
And let's see your arms tonight. How do they look tonight?
I have been slacking a little bit, so it's not very good. I was traveling and I took a trip to Kelowna for 2 weeks, so I totally.
And you didn't come see us?
I had so many people I had to go see.
I didn't get to squeeze those little cheeks, and I happen to know exactly where your mother lives.
I know. You're so close.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with a potential customer that may be on the fence, that is wondering if they should be taking this product for themselves, for their children? Like you said, you waited a while before you put Leo on the product as well. And I think you showed in one of your lives on Instagram where you're actually putting it in his bottle.
Yes, I found that's the easiest way to give it to him right now is right into his bottle.
So what advice or what would you tell, I guess it's not advice, but what would you say to somebody who's kind of on the fence about whether they want to start on the product?
I'd say honestly, just do it. I know like for a lot of people, especially with COVID going on right now, money is really a big issue, but if you don't eat out for a couple nights, you can afford it. And it is so worth it. Just knowing even how it's helped me and how it's helped Leo, and even just in the long run, knowing that it's going to help him with his brain development and the immune support, just do it. It's so worth it.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Maddie. And, we'll stick with you and continue to bring you back on here so that you can share with more people as you progress. So I know I had one last thing to ask you. You actually couldn't wait your 120 days.
I couldn't, so I did it after 3 months.
Okay, so tell us what your 90-day test result came back at, please.
It was a 3.8 to 1, so
No kidding.
almost at the 3 to 1.
That's awesome.
Wow. So that is very cool. So, it does go to show, like I couldn't wait either. I tested it 2 months and, I had dropped significantly as well. So yeah, it's pretty phenomenal when you can actually see in writing the changes in your cellular health.
Yes,
So,
I was actually shocked. Like I was not expecting it to drop that much.
yeah. Oh, well, I'm so happy that you're on it because, as you know, we have so many of our young people, and I consider you young, that, are at these high levels. Like I have my 17-year-old stepson. He came back at 34.7. And of course, he's young. He's not feeling anything that could be wrong with him. But, as that chronic illness, that chronic inflammation stays, it will eventually become something. So I'm so happy that you've plunged right in and you've taken this on and you're making those changes in your health.
Yes,
So
I'm so happy too. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Our next guest is Dr. Sharon Selmen. And Dr. Sharon comes to us from Sudbury, Ontario. And Sharon, maybe I'll just get you to introduce yourself a little bit, and then we'll start talking about your story.
Thank you, Deb. Well, I'm a medical doctor. I have 2 masters, one in clinical pharmacology and one in international clinical trials monitoring. Most of my like practice has been into wellness and into research. And I'm a mom also of a 2 years old baby girl. And I've been living in Canada for the last 3 years.
Wow. And you come to us from, is it Mexico
Mexico.
City?
Yeah, Mexico
Yes.
City. Yeah.
Yes, and we're so lucky to have you here in Canada with us, and we just love that you're not only part of our team, but you have an amazing story to tell as well. And I'm just gonna maybe let you start your story, and then I will ask a few questions in between there as well, because I've heard parts of the story, but I don't know if I've ever heard the full story. And so I'll let you you take that away.
Yeah. Well, back in Mexico, I used to do electric muscle stimulation type of exercise, the one that you use the whole suit and
Yeah.
they give you like stimulation while you exercise, short periods of time. And then here in Canada, I stopped doing that. I was doing Pilates, yoga, and a lot of stuff. And then back in October, I started here, well, back in Toronto, doing this type of exercise again. And in February, I went to my class, and 24 hours later, I start with an acute pain in my right thigh, and it was like I couldn't move my leg. It
Wow.
was like a excruciating pain, 10 out of 10, and I have like a very high threshold of pain. And like I knew that there was a risk to have rhabdo. Rhabdo is a disease that is characterized of muscle destruction, like the muscle destroys itself, and a lot of enzymes and a lot of things gets liberated and can provoke cardiac alterations, heart attacks, renal failure. Like it's a very um, bad disease and severe one. So I knew that there was a risk, and I remember that my husband is a cardiologist, and I call him and I say, I having this pain. It's like very specific in locally in a very specific area, and I told him like, should I go to the ER? And he told me, well, but your pee is clear, right? Because usually your pee can be with blood or orange or brownish, but that means that you are already in renal failure. And I remember that I told him like, okay, so you want me to wait until my pee is brownish to go to the ER? Or should I go and see if this is rhabdo? And he says, no, you're totally right. You have to go. So it was the first time I left my baby, like without me. I left her asleep and I went to the ER. And long story short, it was rhabdo. The creatinine, the CK levels, that is the enzyme that breaks, was at 21,600, and the normal levels it's less than 140.
Wow.
So it was super high. I was in the hospital for 5 days, but like amazingly and surprisingly, my other results were okay. Like my renal function was okay, my potassium was okay, and that was what was the worrisome, because the potassium can lead to cardiac alterations in the ECG, and
Mhm.
then to suffer complications, and the renal failure also. So, like, the doctors couldn't explain how bad or how ill I was, but how good I was at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
And
pretty incredible. So just curious, when did you start? You started taking the balance oil in October, you said?
no, I started taking the balance soil um, in late December,
Okay.
early early January. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So in that short, did you take the balance test at that time as well?
No, I took it a little bit later, and my results were 7 to 1.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I've been like, I took it, the balance test, after 2 or 3 months of taking the balance oil.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
But the interesting part is that when I was in the hospital, my husband found an article talking about polyphenols,
Mm-hmm.
how they can be renal protectors, and in rhabdo. This article was found, like, it was made, these studies in rats, but they are like I believe um, in the power and the benefits of the polyphenols. So I told my husband, like, maybe, like, the balance oil saved my life. Like,
Yeah.
like, do the polyphenols, like, I didn't develop renal failure. And I told him, like, I don't know if it's like for sure or not, but I'm gonna take this balance oil forever.
Right. Well, it was protecting you. That's amazing. That's super interesting. I would actually like to maybe later on at another time discuss in more depth about the connection between polyphenols and being a renal protector.
Yeah, of course.
Because I think that's a topic that would hit home to a lot of people.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah.
So we may have to have a conversation about that in the future, because obviously I can do a little bit of research, but you are definitely the person to present it to us. You also, so roughly how long were you in the hospital?
5 days.
5 days. And so then have you had any other complications with that since then?
No, nothing.
Wow.
That's incredible.
And my recovery was, like, pretty good. I couldn't do, like, any kind of exercise maybe for 1 month, because I was still, like, in a little bit of pain.
Mhm.
But now and 1 month later, I was, like, perfectly fine and 100% recovered.
Wow.
But this is the, like, what we need to know. Like, the extremes are bad, like too little or too much. And this type of exercise is a type that can lead to inflammation, to a cascade of inflammation. And when you do exercise that is moderate, gradual, and repetitive, is good. It is an anti-inflammatory response. But when you do what I did, like, it's the opposite.
So it's finding that balance
Yeah.
between healing and harming.
Yeah.
And that's finding that balance. Yes. Wow. That's very interesting. So have you taken another test recently?
Yeah, I'm waiting for the results.
You're waiting for the results. Okay. Awesome. Very interesting. So what would you, as a mom, as a doctor, what would you tell somebody that's on the fence about starting a new healthcare protocol or starting on the balance oil?
I would say that, like, for me, it's a very, very, very cheap investment if I'm seeing the results that you can have. Like for me, it's I had no doubt, a no-brainer decision, like to pay so little money to have so many benefits
Mhm.
that can impact you. And maybe you can't understand how many benefits you will have, because a lot of these will happen like inside in a cellular level. But if you can't see them, doesn't mean they are not happening.
Right. So seeing as we have you on here and you're a doctor, so I'm a person out here and I come back and I say, well, but I take an omega. What would you tell me in regards to that?
Okay, I will tell you, like, please test yourself and let's see how good your omega is.
Yeah.
This is one. Two, what benefits or what addition in this omega-3 you can find. In this one you have polyphenols. There's no other omega-3 with polyphenols, and I think this ingredient is what makes balanced oil so special, so unique.
Mhm.
um, and you can't compete with that.
No. No, we love the fact that it is test-based nutrition. It's amazing being able to have that baseline. You start with that, and not only can you physically see in black and white the changes that are happening, but you can feel the changes over the 120 days or more, depending on how badly inflamed you are, right? Some of us, we've taken many years of abuse to get our bodies to these places, and it's going to sometimes take longer than the 120 days
Exactly.
to repair the damage.
And to be patient.
Yes, exactly. So you actually have another story that you offered to share with us as well.
Yeah,
And
my
I
mom.
believe it was in regards to your mom.
Yeah, my mom. My mom was diagnosed with hypertension, pre-diabetes, and she had high cholesterol and high triglycerides. And she started taking balanced soil, and within 3 months, I did a full checkup again. Like, she was getting super dizzy now because she was taking her medication for hypertension, but she wasn't hypertensive anymore. Like, she was in range.
Unreal.
So her glucose was perfect, and her cholesterol and triglycerides were in range. So the doctor was really shocked, and he took all the medications off my mom. So, like, I told my mom, like, you will take this like forever.
Right.
So I truly believe, like, if you go back in the research and you can see why the omega-3 works in hypertension, in diabetes, it's because it's working in a cellular level. And we have to remember that all of our cells have a membrane, and this membrane is composed of fatty acids and will depend on what we eat and what supplements we take, the fatty acids that will compose these membranes.
Mhm. Wow. And how long did it take before she was noticing the differences?
2 to 3 months. It was very fast with my mom. I've been noticing that the sicker you are, like, the fastest you can see changes.
Right.
And like, the healthy or fit you are, it could take longer
Mhm.
to see something like that you can be surprised about.
Wow, that's amazing. I don't know. I'm just going to check here on social media, Ray, to see if anybody has any questions. Do you or anybody else on here have any questions?
I'll have a quick peek. I love this story. It just gave me chills, honestly. Sharon, just hearing about your mom and knowing how sick you were. I would love to know what, did this intrigue like your mother's doctor or your doctors? Were they wondering like, how is this possible?
Yeah, yeah, but what I what I have realized over these past months that I have researching and reading more than 300 articles about omega-3 is that doctors doesn't know a lot of omega-3.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about that dietitian like uh, ground,
Yeah.
and the doctors always say, well, it won't harm yourself, so you can take it if you want, but it's not like you should take it. And I think it's because normally the modern medicine is more based in treatment
Mm-hmm.
and not in prevention.
Yes.
And I
So,
think
yeah.
that's the key. Like I've been always more in the wellness kind of, so I'm like a different kind of physician. Like for me, the prevention is key,
Mhm.
not only the treatment, but mostly with a system like with high occupancy of patients, very few doctors, like always the focus is on the treatment because there's no time to educate or there's no time to focus on the prevention. But I think that what we should aim is to prevent, not to treat something that you can prevent before.
Mhm. That's interesting because I snuck out this afternoon with my dad to have a quick coffee in town, and one of the gentlemen that shows up, he's in severe pain, and I just overheard parts of the conversation, so I don't have all the details, but his back is in pain, and his doctor has prescribed him some type of antidepressant, which actually numbs the nerve so that it's not helping it just he doesn't feel it anymore. So we're just going through life being numb instead of actually figuring out what we should be doing to make ourselves better. And to me, that just, I've never aligned with that part of it. Like, I'll suffer. I don't take a Tylenol unless I absolutely have to. And I'll struggle with it. I get very few headaches, but if I have one, I'll struggle with it for, hours or a day before I'll finally break down and take something. But, to take something that literally cuts your nerves off, so you can't feel, I wouldn't want to live my life that way.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really interesting actually, because, Dr. Sharon and I had spoke before about this topic, and I'm wondering if you have any more information, because I know you'd said, Dr. Selmen, that you'd look into it, but talking about Maddie and how she was really surprised with the postpartum piece, and that, as you and I know, right, like, I've had 3 babies, and it does, like, your hormones suddenly fluctuate so crazy and your sleep is off and everything's off, and there's a lot of pressures coming at you as a new mom. So it really is, and it's very real. And postpartum depression and those fluctuating hormones are very real. And it's been an interesting thing because I've been wondering about this very thing, about where our DHA and EPA levels, like what happens to us after we have a baby, right? And when we are pregnant, we're putting all of those nutrients and all that DHA into our baby. It only makes sense that we're going to have like really crazy levels afterwards. And so hearing Madison say like she was really surprised about how quickly that turned around for her. Can you like touch on a little bit as to why that might be?
Well, there are a lot of studies that have described how omega-3 can help in anxiety and depression.
Mm-hmm.
And what you say about that in pregnancy, yeah, your levels go down, and because like all the nutrients are towards the baby, are towards the development of the baby. And there are a lot of months that you are with nausea and you're not eating well, so your nutrition is not good during pregnancy. Plus, you're growing a human being inside of you.
Right.
So, and all those things with the hormones, and pregnancy is like a pro-inflammatory state as well. So it's like if you are having like a chronic inflammation state
Right.
during pregnancy. So that's why you can see a huge difference in postpartum taking a good omega-3.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Thank you for answering that. That's awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? This was so awesome. I love this impromptu testimonial and interview. Great idea. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it's we have this ability to pivot, Ray, and I think
Great.
that's why we all work together so well. And this, like, we just not that we're just through this together, because I think this is a pretty amazing event, and I think we're going to continue to have them probably every couple of weeks.
I love that idea.
Wherever we can kind of fit them in, and as we have new people coming in that are sharing their stories, and because that's what it's about. It's that third party validation. You hear me talk about it, but I might just be a one-off. But if you hear somebody else talk about it, and there's like, hey, this lady, she had postpartum. You just never know who you're actually impacting, and helping somebody find that balance in life. So we do truly appreciate you all coming out tonight, and those watching us on Facebook and later on YouTube. Thank you for coming, and thank you for watching us. Anything else, Ray?
No, this is terrific. Thank you so much. You've made my evening.
Thank you again, everybody, and have a fabulous night. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.